Louise Talley likes living alone, even 3 years after her beloved husband Hayward has passed away.
Louise was still content to stay in her modest 2-story home in Nicetown, Pennsylvania.
For a senior citizen like Louise, living by herself can make her vulnerable.
Louise went to bed each night with the comfort of 3 decades worth of happy memories.
But the happy memories of Louise Talley's quiet life go out the window on this cool October night in 1991.
Louise was beaten, violated, and degraded. It was a vicious, heartless attack on a defenseless old woman.
Such a violent end to an otherwise peaceful life.
While this October night marked the end of Louise's life, it is also the beginning of a complex mystery.
This should have been an open and shut case, but it turned out to be anything but.
Turns out that Louise Talley's murder wasn't the only crime committed that day.
A vicious murder and rape quickly becomes a complex and tangled story, and it will take decades before the true killer is finally caught. For the residents of Nicetown, Pennsylvania, the community is exactly that, a nice town.
Nicetown is a predominantly black suburb of Philadelphia. It's hardscrabble, it's working class, and it's very close-knit.
Louise Talley and her husband Hayward settled here in the early 1960s.
3 decades later, on Friday, October 18th, 1991, Louise's life came to a horrific and violent end.
Louise Talley lived a life full of peace and kindness to her very last day.
Louise Talley is born in Wilmington, Delaware, in June of 1914.
World War I was just beginning. It was an uncertain time. Louise had 4 siblings. Her parents raised her to be a Christian with a kind and cautious soul.
By her 30s, Louise is still single, and at that age, in that time, she might have stayed that way.
In walks Hayward Talley, a Virginia-born landscape gardener, and he steals Louise's heart.
The couple ties the knot in Wilmington on June 1st, 1947. He's 36 and she's 32. It's the first marriage for both of them. Reverend O'Connell Milbourne presides. The Talleys settle down near where Hayward grew up, Nicetown. The happy couple buys a home together at 3959 Nice Street, no less. Nicetown is on the north side of Philadelphia. It's a blended mix of low-income and working-class families.
There are multi-generational row houses and high rates of unemployment, which contributes to petty crime in the area.
But still, it's a place to call home. And the happy couple love being together here. They are loyal Christians, active in their local church.
Their door is always open for a visit, and Louise just loves to garden. Her yard becomes the envy of the block.
Louise and Hayward build a good home life in Nicetown. Sure, they started a bit late to get married, but perhaps the wait will make their life together even sweeter.
When Hayward Talley dies in 1987, Louise is left alone with a choice to make.
Now her neighbors wonder, will the longtime Nicetown resident move out now that her husband is gone?
Louise decides to stay in the nice house on Nice Street that she shared happily with Hayward for 3 decades. Louise is a proud, independent woman. Even as a senior citizen in her 70s, she takes care of herself. She keeps an immaculately clean house, works in her garden, even washes her own car.
More than 3 years after Hayward dies, Louise is fully settled into her simple widow's life.
Independence can come at a price. It isn't hard to figure out that Louise lives alone in that old house.
She had recently had a loss in her life, so was quite a vulnerable individual in the community.
October 18, 1991 is like any other day in the Nicetown neighborhood. Midday temperatures reach 72 degrees Fahrenheit, but dip down to a pleasant 56 degrees overnight. But when Louise Talley goes upstairs to say her prayers on this particular fall night, she becomes a killer's prey. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon of the next day, Saturday, October 19th, when police at the 39th Precinct get a call about Louise Talley.
Family members are worried. They haven't been able to reach the elderly woman all day.
When officers arrive at her house, everything appears to be as it should, from the outside. When they look inside, it's a different story. Furniture's been overturned. There are classic signs of a robbery.
In the master bedroom, police discover what every officer prepares for, but no one ever wants to find.
Louise Talley is dead and face down on the floor beside her bed.
She's been violently raped and sodomized. Her face is smashed in with a blunt object. She's been stabbed multiple times.
Her arms show defensive wounds, which means she put up a fight. But Louise was 77. She honestly didn't stand a chance.
The whole thing is awful. It's one of the most gruesome murders officers in the area have ever seen.
Nicetown is a neighborhood in shock. One of their favorite longtime residents is dead, a victim of a murder in the most violent of ways.
Local police are quickly joined by Philadelphia homicide detectives Dennis Dusak, Manuel Santiago, and Thomas Burke, who take over the murder investigation.
The first 48 hours of an investigation are critical. You have to follow any leads, no matter how big or small.
It's not long until investigators get a hot tip. Someone standing outside on the street says they saw a guy trying to sell a couple of stolen TVs.
When you have a tip like that, it could point you right to the killer. It could be a slam dunk.
From all appearances, Louise Talley's murder investigation seems to be unfolding in a way that would seem like an open and shut case. But it will soon take a turn that no one expected. October 18th, 1991. Another typical day comes to a close in Nicetown, Pennsylvania. But this night also brings an untimely end to the quiet life of 77-year-old Nicetown widow, Louise Talley.
Louise is surprised by a stranger in her bedroom. She's attacked, raped, and murdered.
By the following afternoon, police are on the scene and news of the vicious killing is all over the neighborhood.
A preliminary assessment of the crime scene is underway.
Defensive wounds on Louise's arms tell detectives she fought hard in this battle, but she didn't win the war.
We're looking for clues about the killing. How did Louise die? Was she also raped? Forensic evidence can be found on and around the body.
Investigators collect evidence from anywhere in the house that the killers might have been.
We're looking for fingerprints, and of course, most of them will belong to Louise, but there may be other prints at the scene that were left by her killer or killers.
Crime scene evidence is everywhere. You just need to know what to look for. Sometimes it's what isn't there that can offer a clue. Dust marks on 2 tables indicate there may be 2 televisions missing from the house.
Evidence suggests motive, and the motive here points strongly towards robbery.
A closer examination of Louise Talley's body provides important clues.
Louise's house coat is crumpled underneath her body. When the rope gets carefully unraveled, bingo, the murder weapon.
A 12-inch metal knife with an 8-inch blade, covered in blood. This gets bagged and tagged. It's a crucial piece of evidence.
The knife matches other knives found in the kitchen.
So we know the killer didn't show up with a weapon. Instead, they found the knife once they were inside, in Louise's own kitchen downstairs.
If Louise was killed with her own kitchen knife, it's possible that this was a crime of opportunity, a robbery gone wrong.
On the sheets, blood and stains of bodily fluids.
semen is often left behind in cases of sexual assault. It looks like Louise Talley was brutally raped, and her killer or killers have left their mark at the scene.
Finding so many pieces of evidence this early on should help investigators solve the case quickly, and time is of the essence.
While investigators comb the inside of Louise's house for clues, they get an important tip from people standing outside. A bystander gives police a hot tip about two men, Roland St. James and John Buddy Richardson.
The tipster tells detectives that 1 month before Louise Talley's murder, a crack house opened up just down the street.
It's a den of sex, drugs, violence, and theft, and it's run by St. James and Richardson, who are no strangers to police. They've both spent time in jail, and they both have extensive criminal records.
Witnesses tell police they have seen these men trying to sell 2 televisions around the area.
If those televisions belong to Louise Talley, that is a direct connection between St. James and Richardson and the crime scene.
When you get a break like that, you chase it hard, and it's critical we follow it up right away.
Roland St. James and John Buddy Richardson are identified as persons of interest in the vicious murder of widower Louise Talley. Police quickly track down the 2 men and bring them into the station for questioning.
Both of these men are convicted felons. They have been on the wrong side of the law for a long time.
Witnesses say they've seen 2 men in possession of 2 stolen television sets from the murder victim's house.
Richardson has an outstanding warrant when he's taken into custody, so he can be held for questioning in the Talley case, while St. James stays on his own accord.
Both men are now on the detectives' radar, and these important factors are starting to quickly add up.
In the interrogation room at the police station, both St. James and Richardson are eager to talk.
Now, this is a bit unusual. Typically, persons of interest, if they're known criminals, aren't that keen on chatting with police.
If guys like this are going to say anything, it's to profess their innocence. But these 2 men are all talk.
What these men do say is not what the police are expecting to hear. St. James and Richardson admit to police that they were trying to sell 2 televisions, but they say they had nothing to do with Louise Talley's murder.
They say it was a druggie who stole the TVs. He showed up at their crack house and wanted to trade the electronics for drugs.
The druggie's name? Anthony Wright. He's the real killer, they say. He's the man you want.
Police have 2 suspects in custody, but they are pointing a finger squarely at a 3rd man.
When Roland St. James and John Buddy Richardson say someone else killed Louise Talley, investigators have to take that information with a grain of salt.
These guys are on the hot seat. They'll say anything to divert suspicion away from themselves.
The story St. James and Richardson tell police sounds credible. They have details about the murder, they know those TVs came from Louise Talley's house, and most importantly, they have a name.
A name is just what detectives want to hear when they're working to solve a case like this one.
Anthony Wright. Just hours after the grisly murder of Louise Talley, it looks like police have the name of her killer.
At age 20, Anthony Wright is no stranger to police. He's committed a string of crimes as a juvenile offender.
Wright lives within a mile of Louise Talley's home in Nicetown.
And now police have 2 cooperative witnesses who say Wright told them he killed Louise.
Anthony Wright is at home on the afternoon of October 20th, 1991, when detectives Burke and Santiago knock on his door.
Anthony and his 4-year-old son, Tony Jr., are getting ready to watch the Sunday football game together.
Police tell Anthony Wright they want to question him about the murder of Louise Talley. He needs to come to the station for questioning.
Louise Talley was murdered in her home the previous evening, a location less than a mile away from Anthony's home.
Anthony Wright is nervous. After all, he's no stranger to police.
Anthony Tony Wright grew up in a tough environment. He was raised in a household where alcohol abuse by adults often led to domestic violence.
In his teens, Tony drops out of school, becomes a young father, and gets tangled up with hard drugs.
To feed his drug habit, Tony starts stealing. Tony Wright is just 16 years old when he first gets into serious trouble in 1987.
Anthony is chased by police after he allegedly robbed a home. Cornered by the police, he hits an officer in the face with a wooden plank, breaking his jaw.
Anyone who injures a police officer while committing a crime is in for trouble.
Anthony Wright is charged with aggravated assault against a police officer. In court, Anthony catches a break from a judge who hopes the teenager can be rehabilitated.
Anthony is tried through the juvenile system and sent to a rehabilitation camp for troubled youth.
The detour away from jail seems to have worked. By October 1991, Anthony Wright is clean, sober, and working as a stucco sprayer. He's providing for his family. It looks like Tony is now on the right track.
Suddenly, Anthony Wright's life has taken a new turn in the wrong direction, and his violent history is coming back to haunt him. On a street called Nice in Nicetown, Pennsylvania, in October of 1991. It's been less than 48 hours since 77-year-old Louise Talley was stabbed, bludgeoned, raped, sodomized, and murdered in her own bedroom. And the killer is still on the loose.
Anytime you have a vicious crime and the perpetrator is still at large, detectives are under the gun to solve the case. Fast.
The first 48 hours are critical in a murder investigation. The chances of solving a case drop dramatically, by as much as 50% if officers don't have a viable lead before those 48 hours are up.
The last thing police want to see is for a case to go cold and a dangerous killer to go free.
Early on in the Louise Talley murder investigation, police catch a break. Witnesses point to two neighborhood drug dealers who were seen trying to fence two television sets that may have come from Louise's home.
These two suspects, in turn, point a finger at 20-year-old Anthony Wright.
Anthony Wright is known to police. He's been in serious trouble before and was convicted as a juvenile for assaulting a police officer during an arrest for robbing a neighborhood home.
On the afternoon of October 20th, 1991, 2 days after the killing, Anthony is picked up at his home and taken to the 39th precinct.
Once police have Anthony Wright in custody, they go to work to win a confession.
Detective Santiago is polite with Anthony until he gets him into the interrogation room. Then, Santiago explains why Anthony's really been brought in.
They know about the stolen TVs, they know about the drug deal. An elderly woman has been brutally raped and murdered.
And now the police tell Anthony that they know he did it.
Detective Santiago lays out the gruesome details of the murder to Anthony.
Santiago wants to close the case, and he is hoping to shock Anthony into a confession by listing the things that were found at Louise Talley's home.
The rape, the sodomy, the stabbing, the robbery.
During hours of pressure from police, Anthony Wright denies he has anything to do with the crime.
Anthony says over and over again that he didn't kill Louise, that they've got the wrong guy, that he's innocent.
Anthony tells Santiago he has an alibi. On October 18th, he worked all day and got home at around 5 p.m. He went to a club at around 11 and returned home at 4 a.m. with some friends.
He couldn't have killed anyone, he says. He was simply somewhere else at the time.
Is it possible Anthony Wright isn't the killer that police are looking for?
When a suspect says he didn't commit a crime, it's a tough spot for an officer to be in.
The evidence points in one direction, but the person in front of you points in another. You can start to second-guess yourself.
You've got to remember that it's hardly unusual for criminals to plead innocence, even when they're guilty of sin.
It can affect it negatively if officers are closed-minded with tunnel vision on, and if they have a preconceived notion of what is and how things are without having an open mind to ensure that you are taking every aspect into consideration fully and honestly.
Detective Santiago decides to up the pressure on Anthony Wright by bringing Detective Burke into the interrogation room with him. And this time, both detectives appear to be angry.
They call Anthony a liar. They call him a punk and a bastard. They tell Anthony he's not going to outsmart them.
They tell him they're going to prove he raped and killed Louise Talley, and they are for sure going to prove it.
After 2 solid hours of high-pressure interrogation by 2 seasoned detectives, Anthony Wright remains adamant that he didn't murder Louise Talley.
Over and over, Anthony tells detectives Burke and Santiago he didn't do it. He tells the men he doesn't know what they are talking about. He doesn't even know any old lady on Nice Street. He cries for his mom.
Police don't like feeling they're being lied to, especially if they have solid evidence pointing to a suspect's guilt.
It's the job of all police to fight for the victims of crime, especially those who aren't alive to defend themselves.
And given the chance, police will push a suspect to the limit to get the information they need.
In this case, the detectives apparently tell Anthony they'll push his eyes out if he doesn't tell them the truth.
They tell him he can't have a drink of water or smoke a cigarette until he confesses. And they tell him he's not leaving the room until he admits what he did.
After hours of questioning, Detectives Santiago and Burke believe Anthony Wright is close to a confession. But he's not there yet.
That's when they decide it's time to bring in the big gun.
Detective Martin Devlin is a superstar in the precinct. He's known as a boa constrictor, a squeezer, a closer.
His nickname? Detective Perfect and the Golden Marty.
Detective Devlin comes into the interrogation room to do what he does best: bring difficult suspects over the finish line.
First, Devlin handcuffs the 20-year-old, then he presents Anthony with a thick document. In it are 9 key pages outlining the murder in great detail.
It's a detailed, written confession.
And all that's missing from it is Anthony's signature.
We know everything, the detective tells Anthony. It's all here in black and white.
Just sign this document and we can all go home. There's no other way out. Trust us.
Just 2 days after Louise Talley's life was snuffed out, detectives have their man in custody. 3 hours later, they have his signed confession.
Anthony Wright breaks. He signs the 9-page confession admitting to the rape and murder of 77-year-old Louise Talley.
Anthony's confession contains details only someone who was at the crime scene could know.
It says that Anthony knocked on the door and Louise answered. There was no forced entry to the home.
It says he sodomized the woman in her bedroom, smashing her in the face with the heel of a shoe that was found by her body.
He admits to stabbing her multiple times with a knife from her own kitchen.
The confession says that he hit her in the face, which happens to be just like the time he smashed that cop in the jaw while he was being apprehended years before.
The confession goes on to say that Anthony later returns to the murder house with friends to steal 2 TVs and a clock radio. Anthony even admits to what he was wearing when he killed Louise: a team jersey, black pants, and black sneakers.
The interview is over. The detectives have done their job and secured a confession from Anthony Wright.
They can now all go home. Except Anthony. He won't be going anywhere.
Anthony Wright is charged with capital murder in the death of Louise Talley and taken into custody.
Once a confession is locked in, officers can usually rest a little easier. They know they have a killer off the streets.
Wright is transferred to Holmesburg Prison, otherwise known as the Bird.
The state's most notorious gangsters and mob figures are housed here, along with Philadelphia's most violent criminals.
It's a dangerous place even for tough felons. Sometimes up to 6 stabbings a week take place at the Bird.
Anthony Wright is not a popular inmate due to the vicious and predatory nature of the crime he is charged with.
Rapists are despised in prison, and Anthony's a black man accused of sexually assaulting and killing a black woman, a senior citizen, no less.
Rapists have a bullseye on their back, and they're often targets for violence by other inmates and have to be held in segregation.
Anthony Wright is behind bars, charged with the rape and murder of Louise Talley. But in this case, the police are not finished building the case against him.
Anthony's confession detailed the clothes he wore on the night of the murder.
Police execute a search warrant for his bedroom. They're looking to connect Anthony to the Chicago team jersey, the jeans, and the sneakers that were found covered in blood in Louise's home.
Anthony's mom, Myrtle, is terrified when officers come to her door.
She calls her sister Gladys, but she lets the police come inside and look around. Anything to keep the peace, and she's too rattled to take a close look at their warrant.
The officers comb through Anthony's room, and Myrtle sees them leave with a few framed photos and his work overalls. She doesn't see them leave with anything else.
But Myrtle does not get a receipt for the items removed by police, and so she can't later say with any certainty what was or wasn't taken.
Officers say during the search of the family home, they find a team jersey, black jeans, and sneakers under Anthony Wright's mattress.
And, lo and behold, there is blood all over the clothes.
Although DNA sampling isn't available yet in the early 1990s, blood typing is, so a lab test can determine if the blood type matches the victim's.
When police find a suspect's clothes at his residence and a victim's blood is all over them, it's direct evidence.
The case is sewn up like a bow, and it's time for Anthony Wright to go on trial.
Given Anthony Wright's written confession, the eyewitnesses, and the clothing link, it really feels like a foregone conclusion.
But when Anthony Wright's case goes to trial, his defense lawyer, Bernard Siegel, has other ideas. Siegel says detectives threatened his client with violence and forced him to say things that aren't true.
The prime suspect in a vicious rape and murder is turning the tables and saying that the police themselves are guilty of a terrible crime.
In October 1991, Louise Talley is stabbed to death in her Nicetown, Pennsylvania home. Within 48 hours, a prime suspect is identified and signs a written confession admitting to her rape and murder.
Anthony Wright is a 20-year-old father who lives within a mile of Louise Talley's house. He has a string of priors and is well known to police.
Police charge him with a host of crimes: rape, robbery, burglary, theft, and weapons violations.
He's also charged with capital murder, which carries the death penalty in Pennsylvania.
In May of 1993, Anthony Wright goes on trial for the rape and murder of 77-year-old widow Louise Talley. Wright pleads not guilty.
Anthony's lawyer, Bernard Siegel, tells the jury that his client did not commit the heinous crime of which he is accused, and that he has an alibi, that he is innocent.
Now, the evidence against Anthony Wright is overwhelming. Witnesses take the stand and testify they saw Anthony with 2 TV sets stolen from the Talley home. And Wright's house is walking distance from the murder scene. Then there's the matter of the clothing found at the Wright residence.
A forensic analysis tells the court that the blood on the team jersey and jeans found in Anthony Wright's bedroom is a match for Louise Talley's blood type. Stains found on the jeans are semen, further linking the sexual assault of Louise Talley to Wright.
Then, of course, there's the signed confession with details that could only have been known by the killer.
What seems like a slam dunk for the prosecution is thrown into question when Anthony Wright's lawyer files a motion to toss out his written confession.
If police are convinced they have a guilty party in custody, they sometimes push the rapper too far in pursuit of a confession.
Siegel asks the judge to throw out his client's confession on the grounds that Anthony was coerced into signing it.
Siegel's motion to have his confession struck from the evidence is ultimately denied by the judge.
On June 8, 1993, nearly 2 years after Louise Talley is bludgeoned to death in her Nicetown home, a jury returns their unanimous verdict. Anthony Wright is guilty of first-degree murder, burglary, rape, robbery, and possession of an instrument of crime.
The one thing the jury couldn't agree upon was whether Anthony should face the gallows.
Jurors voted 7-5 in favor of the death penalty. But since the vote to execute needs to be unanimous, Anthony Wright's life is spared.
Found guilty of murder, Anthony Wright is sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole.
Anthony won't be put to death, but he still will spend the rest of his life in prison for a murder he claims he didn't commit. With literally nothing left to lose, Anthony Wright decides, once again, to put pen to paper.
But this time, Anthony isn't writing his name on a confession for the police.
When Anthony puts pen to paper this time, he composes a letter. Anthony Wright is a man on ice. He's confessed to raping and murdering a senior citizen.
He's serving a sentence of life in prison without chance of parole.
Anthony Wright can't stop telling whoever will listen that he's innocent.
There are lots of inmates who will tell you they didn't do it, but few of them are as dedicated to proving their innocence as Anthony Wright.
Anthony spends hours in the library writing up to 10 letters a day, to reporters, to lawyers, to news stations. He campaigns for himself, telling his story over and over again.
Writing is cathartic, but it's also disheartening. No one is responding. No one seems to be listening.
Please listen to what my story is. Please listen to my side of what had happened without being able to fully expand on everything that he had been through and what he had actually been accused of and his part within it. So it would be this moment of panic and this longing for somebody to please listen to his side of the story and hear what his truth was.
Constant rejection can take a huge toll on a person's mental health, and prison is a very lonely place.
On the advice of a fellow inmate, Anthony writes a letter to an organization called the Innocence Project.
The Innocence Project was founded in 1992 by lawyers Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld, who helped defend O.J. Simpson, the then disgraced footballer who was charged with double murder.
The organization is dedicated to using DNA evidence as a tool to help exonerate inmates who have been wrongfully convicted of a crime.
Like many of his letters, Anthony's note to the Innocence Project goes unanswered.
Meanwhile, Anthony's mom, Myrtle, falls ill and dies with a broken heart, knowing her son is in prison with seemingly no hope for redemption.
The day of his mother Myrtle's funeral is a dark day for Anthony Wright. He cannot leave prison to attend the service. He cannot say goodbye. Soon afterward, Anthony receives an unexpected message from the outside.
Finally, someone heard his call. Anthony shares the news with his father, who tells him his mother Myrtle is shining down love and hope for her son from heaven.
In September 2001, nearly a decade after Anthony's conviction, lawyers from the Innocence Project meet him in prison.
They explain they're going to file a petition under newly enacted legislation allowing DNA testing for prisoners who claim their innocence.
Lawyers want to test the semen on Louise Talley's bedsheets. And they want to test the blood on the team jersey, black jeans, and sneakers the investigators say they found in Anthony's bedroom.
If it's not Anthony's blood, well, whose blood is it?
In a fortunate break for Anthony Wright, key pieces of evidence are still in police evidence files. Now the Innocence Project's legal team must somehow gain access to them. Anthony Wright files a petition in 2005 to test the evidence. But a year later, in 2006, the court denies his request.
A new judge rules that because Anthony signed a confession admitting to the murder of Louise Talley, he is not entitled to obtain DNA testing from the evidence. It feels like another dead end.
The Innocence Project is persistent, and after years of legal wrangling, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court rules that Anthony's signed confession is not a reason to deny DNA testing.
In 2011, the Innocence Project lawyers are given the go-ahead to test the clothing, sheets, shoes, knife, and other evidentiary items obtained at the Louise Talley murder scene.
Will DNA technology finally prove whether Anthony Wright was in Louise Talley's house on the night she was murdered? It's 2013. For 2 years, Anthony Wright has been waiting to find out what will be revealed by the DNA testing of old crime scene evidence. Finally, an answer comes back. DNA from the team jersey, black jeans, and sneakers does not belong to Anthony Wright.
In fact, the blood and the semen and the clothes actually belong to someone else.
The DNA evidence suggests that the homicide detectives took the bloody clothing found at Louise Talley's house and planted the murder clothing in Anthony's bedroom in an attempt to strengthen their case against an innocent man.
Could it be that the Louise Talley murder case is committed by the very police who were assigned to solve it? It's been 26 heartbreaking years since 77-year-old Louise Talley was found raped and murdered in her Pennsylvania home. Devastating for her family and friends, and for an innocent man convicted of her rape and murder.
It's hard to imagine being accused of murder, let alone being thrown in prison for such a long time, with the shame of such a criminal conviction suffered by poor Anthony Wright.
For almost every hour of every day of those 26 years, Anthony Wright professed his innocence, except for the one critical moment when he signed a confession to her killing.
How do you turn a vote around? It's actually Anthony Wright's unyielding determination that is his strongest ally.
With the help of lawyers from the Innocence Project, along with a modern and sophisticated DNA test, it's now clear that blood and semen samples from the Talley House crime scene do not belong to Anthony Wright.
Ronnie Bird was a crack cocaine addict and a career criminal who lived in an abandoned house a stone's throw away from Louise Talley's two-story home. It's Bird's semen that was left on Louise Talley's sheets.
Ronnie Bird's DNA identifies him as Louise Talley's real killer. The career criminal is in a coma on life support, dying from a chronic illness. He dies in South Carolina later that same year.
Closure can be very important for the family members of crime victims. At least Louise Talley's family can rest knowing the person who killed her is off the streets, even though they'll never see him held accountable for killing her.
On August 23, 2016, after a short retrial, Anthony Wright is found not guilty on all counts. It takes just 5 minutes for the jury to reverse his conviction.
We did it, yeah, I mean, today is our day. Today is our day. Today is our day.
There was a lot of false evidence that people ought to be held accountable for, but the key is the science.
After 26 long years, Anthony Wright is at last a free man.
Anthony Wright becomes the 344th person in the United States to be exonerated by DNA evidence.
In June 2018, a settlement with the city of Philadelphia awards Anthony $9.85 million, the largest ever seen at the time.
Meanwhile, in August 2021, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office files perjury and charges against Devlin, Santiago, and Yashimsky.
In Philadelphia today, a first. District Attorney Larry Krasner announcing charges against 3 former homicide detectives.
And the charges in this case relate directly to words that they stated, things that they said in and out of court.
A grand jury presentment unsealed that day ties the charges to the detective's testimony at Wright's retrial, accusing them of lying under oath to condemn an innocent man and covering up their wrongdoing.
When a criminal commits an almost perfect crime, it's noteworthy. The thought of police committing a crime and getting away with it for all these years? Now that's shocking.
Though much of his life was stolen from him, Anthony Wright continues to thrive on the outside.
He's a husband, a father, and a published author. He has his life story tattooed on his arms. And he's an impassioned advocate for the wrongfully accused.
I don't wish no bad on nobody, man, but what was done to me was wrong. What was done to me was wrong. I missed my son's whole life. I wasn't able to probably lay my mother to rest.
Having somebody who understands the trauma that is associated with can never be replaced. It is commendable, it is amazing, it is an act of forgiveness and honor to other people that may be in the same predicament.
I mean, today is our day. Today is our day. Today is our day.
There was a lot of false evidence that people ought to be held accountable for. But the key is the science. And what the Innocence Project did in bringing forth this science.
Anthony carries 2 cell phones, one to keep in touch with his family, and one for anyone in prison who wants to call. He hears from many men, like him, who say they're innocent.
And Anthony sends money to help his comrades find lawyers and pay legal bills. He speaks all over the country about his experiences with the justice system and how quickly it can all go wrong.
Sadly, Anthony Wright isn't the only person who has been dragged through the legal hell of a false conviction.
Investigations have revealed that the detectives who manipulated evidence and forced a confession from Anthony did the same to others over the years.
Anthony himself describes his case as a Pandora's box that exposes the depths of judicial corruption in Philadelphia.
I believe we listen, we reevaluate, and then we move forward with an open mind and a very fulsome discussion on what it is we need to do to move forward, and then to actually take that action and do something different, not just speak platitudes and lip service about what could be done or what needs to change. We're all in agreement something needs to change. Now we need to figure out what it is and actually do it.
For the family of Louise Talley, Anthony Wright's exoneration is a bittersweet ending.
Who could want an innocent man to be convicted for killing Louise Talley?
At least now there is some justice served. Louise Talley's murder has finally been solved, and an innocent man has been given a second chance at life. Meanwhile, corrupt investigators are finally caught by the power of a convict's persistent pen.